This is Healthcare Uprising. We are here to shine a light on the innovators implementing positive change in American healthcare and the patient experience stories, good and bad, that can help others navigate the sometimes overwhelmingly complex American healthcare system. Welcome to the Uprising. We are not doctors and we don't play one on TV. If you need medical advice, consult with your physician or a healthcare professional. All right. Hello, health heads. Welcome and thank you for checking in to this dose of the Healthcare Uprising. I'm your producer in the back, Jeremy Carr, here with your host in the front row, Heather Pierce. So what is on our agenda for today, Heather?
So this week, we have our second doubleheader in our first season. Today, we're talking with David Gantshar. He's the founder, president, and CEO of Merraine Group. And we're also meeting with Dina Ufberg. She is the chief operating officer with Merraine Group. So Merraine Group is one of the most rapidly growing recruitment firms in the healthcare industry, according to Modern Healthcare magazine. They've actually named them a top 10 firm for the last 15 consecutive years. So they're definitely doing something right, which is why they're here on the show. So
That's definitely doing something right, coming on the Uprising.
that is correct. So let's talk about David first. He's originally from Boston, graduated from Carnegie Mellon University, and has been at the helm of Merraine Group for 24 years. They are a leading firm specializing in talent acquisition and organizational excellence, as mentioned. He continues to run the firm while dedicating time to charitable endeavors. He's also a wine aficionado and has a family that includes 3 dogs. David logs, oh my gosh, 250,000 miles a year traveling to see clients. If that is not like hands-on client management, I don't know what is.
That's more than I drive by like a times 5.
Yeah. So yeah, in between flights, I don't know when he's not in the air, but in between flights, David resides in Florida, not far from the company's headquarters in Port St. Lucie. And now Dina Ufberg is a distinguished entrepreneur, investor, and operator with over 13 years of experience in venture capital, technology, and operational leadership across industries such as real estate, fintech, media, and gaming. She's currently,
Wow, that's quite the range.
yeah, I know, right? She's been everywhere. Where hasn't she been?
Yeah.
She is currently the chief operating officer of the Merraine Group, where she leverages her deep expertise in strategy, operations, and partnership development to elevate the organization's impact and deliver unparalleled value to its clients. Um, Over the years, she has raised more than $50 million across multiple B2B SaaS, that's software as a service, ventures, showcasing her expertise in fundraising, investor relations, and scaling high growth companies. Okay, we get like super smart people on the show, by the way.
I'm blown away by the genius level of our interviewees.
Yeah, so we've got David, Carnegie Mellon. Okay, and then we have Dina. She's
Carnegie Mellon, isn't that where Rodney Dangerfield went and back to school? I'm pretty sure.
yeah, maybe. That's a great movie.
Speaking of brilliant people.
Speaking of brilliant.
No respect, I tell you.
We are not Carnegie Mellon.
I just brought it down like 3 notches right there, didn't I?
Dina is a Fulbright scholar. She's a Fulbright scholar. And she also holds a bachelor's degree from the University of Michigan, a master of international affairs from Columbia University. But wait, there's more. And an MBA from Columbia Business School. I am like, whoa, who are these people? They are smart and they were amazing and funny. And anyway, we're gonna have a great conversation with them.
Yeah, the resumes of our guests is just, it really is crazy. And we're covering the fact that they're all coming from different angles of the industry too. We're off to a great start. I really do have to compliment our host here for her putting together quite the calendar of events for the Uprising.
I do my best,
I,
Jeremy.
I just got to make us look good at the end. You do all the work at the beginning. So, it's a good team. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, we're going to get into the interview now. If everybody out there, take a quick second to hit all those happy fun buttons, whatever platform you're on, likes and subscribes, maybe share with a friend, stuff like that. You know how it works. But without further ado, here is our interview with the team from Merraine Group.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
Great. So let's jump into it. David, let's start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and what ultimately drove you to establish and found Merraine Group, and then also tell us a little bit about who Merraine Group is?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll start with your first question. It was a mistake.
Okay.
Like most of us, in the corporate world, it's great to say, "Oh, I set out to do this," but that would be a lie. I I went through. I graduated from Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, and then spent about a dozen years in manufacturing. And one day got a phone call from a very dear friend of mine in Providence, Rhode Island, who said to me, "Hey, David, you have spent the past dozen years working on recruitment, retention, motivation." He says, "I think you'd be great in recruitment." And I said, "Fabulous." And I got on a plane and flew to Providence, spent 3 days with him. And at the end of the 3 days, he said to me, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, I have good news and I have bad news." He said, "Okay." He said, "Tell me the bad news first." I said, "Well, the bad news is I do not want to be your partner." So Dina, take that as a compliment. I told him, "I do not want to be your partner," right? The good news is I said that I love this business. I just fell in love with recruitment. He was exactly right. It was everything that really I had done. And so I opened up in 2001 the Merraine Group, focusing on the manufacturing industry. Long story short, 3 months into the role, I had no clue what I was doing. And I picked up the phone and I called my mother, which is what, a lot of us guys do when we don't know where to turn. And I said, "Ma, I need your help." She came to work and she said, "First mistake you made, you're in the wrong industry. You're in manufacturing. We need to get into healthcare." And that's how it all began. It was really because of her that we took it in the direction of healthcare. That was her background. That was her focus. She had worked for many healthcare organizations, and she was right on the money. In terms of your second question, Merraine Group is an executive search and recruitment firm serving healthcare organizations, and for that matter, life science organizations all over the globe. Most of our work is in the United States, but we do work as far away as, from California to Kuwait and many places in between. And we have had the great privilege over the last 24 years of working for over 1,600 healthcare organizations.
Wow.
Wow.
All right. Well, you've seen some things.
That's
We'll get
true.
into that.
Okay.
Awesome. Dina, tell us about yourself a little bit and how you kind of came to be a part of Merraine Group and your journey in healthcare recruitment, executive search, and startups, VC, and all that.
Yes. So very different than David, but yet here we are all together. So the good things. My career actually started in venture capital. I graduated from the University of Michigan. I went on to do a Fulbright in Hong Kong and then went into the venture capital world and was an operator for companies from seed, from just idea inception, all the way to Series C, and one in which went public. So lots of battle scars in the venture capital world, lots of, as they say, shoveling shit type days where you just keep going. But each company was a new lesson. And after doing that for nearly 14 years, during that time, I also got my MBA at Columbia and my master's in public policy at Columbia. I decided that I needed to and wanted to be involved in something that was truly doing good and doing well. And I say that in healthcare recruiting is that space. You're both helping individuals find their job and find their career and be part of the society that's helping, right? Making sure that our well-being is well cared for and taken care of. So I took my operational expertise that I had from venture capital and I brought it to a family business, which is what Merraine is. We're a family business, family run and operated, and we're here to make an impact for both the patients and the practitioners and of course our staff and our team.
I love that. And I love what you said about healthcare too, because having worked in healthcare for 23, 24 years since 2002. So I'm not good at math. This is why I have a podcast. Really good at talking. Healthcare, when I tell people like, why did I get into healthcare? Because like you, David, I did not get into healthcare on purpose. It was a complete accident. But then I've realized looking back over the years, the reason that I've stayed in this industry is because I'm a helper and I care, you know? And I think that there's a lot of people in the healthcare industry who feel that way, even outside of like hospital, obviously nurses, right? It's like nurses and teachers and people like that, or, certain kind of people that, that get into that work. But just working in the healthcare industry, even like it does draw, I think, a certain kind of person. So
Without a
at least I'd
doubt.
like to think so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You have to have a certain level of, empathy and humanity in you to want to help people on that level, to get your hands dirty on that level.
Yeah.
Completely. I mean, you're pretty selfless if you think about it. You're going in every single day, rain or shine, to
Hmm.
help everybody. I
Yeah.
think about that a lot.
Yeah. We're
I think that's
nurturers.
true of healthcare. And I actually think it's also true of recruitment. And I'll tell you why. Because if you think, so my background obviously is in sales, right? And if you think about any product, and I hate to call human beings a product, so please excuse me, but if you think of any product that you sell, right, that that offering has no right to say, I want to be sold or I don't want to be sold. Well, human beings do. So in recruitment, we have to sell every deal twice, right? First, you have to get your customer on board and have them say, yeah, I want to work with Merraine. They're a fabulous company. I've heard great things. I'm on board. But then after you go through the whole interview process with a candidate and so forth, you have to get the candidate to say, yeah, this is exactly the opportunity I've been waiting for. And so every opportunity has to go through two sales cycles. So I think it's a more difficult sale than what I was accustomed to, certainly coming out of manufacturing. But you're both exactly right. It's selfless and it's something you've got to be passionate about.
Yeah, it definitely is. I love this. Great segue. We're kind of teeing up our conversation here. Sorry, Jeremy, that's a corporate term,
Oh,
corporate jargon. You can ding me
all
for
right.
that.
I'll edit it out later.
Thanks. Um, so healthcare uprising. This podcast, we're focused on innovation. That's what we're here to talk about. We're shining a light on all of the movers and the shakers and the innovators, and then, the human stories too, and how they're affected by that. And, kind of going back to that conversation we were just having, healthcare is about humans, right? At the end of the day, healthcare is human care. So that those stories are really important. But in terms of recruitment and staffing and bringing in the right people, right? Because innovation doesn't happen without people. And so your role in kind of innovation, as kind of indirect as it may seem on the surface, it really isn't. And so I don't know that, anyone thinks of, oh, recruitment in healthcare. Oh, yeah, that's definitely part of innovation. Or no, it's not. I don't know that people think about that. And that's why this conversation, I think, is going to be super interesting. What is your perspective on the importance of having the right people in the right roles, right organizations, all the things that forwards innovation across the industry? And I know that you staff for anywhere from corporations all the way to hospitals and whatnot. So I'm sure that may even be a little bit different. So let's dig into that.
David.
It, People are at the heart of innovation. I actually think that we've set ourselves back a little bit, if we're honest, in this conversation, because in the early 20s we got hit with COVID, right? And everybody was hiding from one another. And now there is this work from home phenomenon that grew out of COVID, actually. And as a result, it has, in my opinion, and I know there are a lot of people that disagree with me, but in my opinion, it's hurt collaboration. And really, collaboration is at the heart of innovation. And so, from my perspective, and I think from our perspective as an organization, really innovation, you're correct, starts with people. It's all about building cohesive leadership teams. And I think the fault of many executive search firms or recruitment firms in our space is they work to fill a space, right? I've got a lead, let's just say, I've got a role for a director of, why don't we say, ambulatory services at a major healthcare system, right? And they work to fill that role and match the spec and make sure that the candidate has the right background. We take a different approach to that. What we say is, how can we build a cohesive leadership team so that when they function well together, they're focused on patient care, they're doing it in a manner that is profitable if it's a for-profit organization, and they're doing it in a manner where innovation is at the heart of everything that they do. And so that only happens when you go into an organization and you kick the tires and you visit with the senior executives and you spend time on campus. So now that we've gone to Zoom, and now that so many people want to work from home, that ability to learn and glean information has really been hampered. So what we always say to our customers up front, always on retained search and sometimes on contingency, is we say, you've got to let us come in your halls. You've got to let us meet your people. You've got to let us understand your community, what type of people succeed in your environment. And then, and only then, when we understand that, that's where innovation starts.
Awesome. That's cool. Dina, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is that innovation is constantly innovating, right? I mean, AI is at the heart of so much right now. It's just when you think you've mastered something, you realize, wow, I'm behind the eight ball. There's more to be had. And the truth is that our healthcare system is in need of innovation. And hopefully we put the right people in the right places. And through Merraine, we're able to help hospitals and institutions hire people who are at the heart of innovation and at the heart of continuously learning about what else can be done. And through that, help the healthcare system, help the hospitals. And at the end of the day, most importantly, help the patients. Because the more we can keep patients healthier, less in the hospitals, the better off our society is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you mentioned the AI. People think about AI like it's its own separate thing, but even that, you have to, people write the program.
Well, right,
You need the right people writing the AI so that the AI will do the right thing for the people, right?
yeah. And it's I mean, it's evolving. I've done quite a bit of research in the healthcare space to understand AI. I mean, even you go to a doctor's office, they're taking your notes, right? They have their computer and they're charting things. That is getting smarter every single time. The doctor adds, I don't know what HIPAA will say about all of this, but it's getting smarter so that when you go to the hospital or the doctor's office for a checkup the next time, it actually has potentially some preventative information as well, based on your past experience and based on knowledge that it's gained from other patients in the space.
Yeah. Technology is changing. And
Yeah.
I tell a lot of people that are that don't work in the healthcare industry, that, and to people that do, that right now, literally the last 5 years, I can say confidently that it has been the most exciting time to be in this space. And I don't want to leave it. Like I am like riding that wave and I'm so excited of everything that's coming. And so to say there's some good things that came out of COVID.
Well, you're so excited about it, you started a podcast.
This is true. I did. Yeah.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
very
This is how
true.
much I want to
That's
talk
why
about
I'm
it.
here, because you're so excited. That's why I'm
I
here.
am. It really is though. Technology is changing everything. for the better. The people that we've been meeting with, and anyway, it's
I mean,
mind blowing.
I agree with you. And I would just add, even on the insurance front of, you
Hmm.
know, we're talking about on the insurance front, there's also a lot of technology that's happening. There are companies popping up right and left that
Hmm.
are trying to assist in the payments
Yep.
uh, and reimbursements, telehealth, right? All of this, and to your point, COVID struck our nation and our world. It rocked our world, and we lost a
Hmm.
lot of people. The silver lining is that we now have to adapt to those changes and be able to service everyone in the healthcare system a bit differently, and
Yeah.
hopefully only for the better.
Yeah. Expectations have changed, I think, from the patient side. Um, and I imagine from the provider side as well, right? I mean, very different perspectives, do you do staffing with doctors and physicians, or is it mostly like uh, non-physician roles, actually?
Our focus is non-physician historically.
Okay.
We do have clients that have challenged us and said, we really want you to help us on a full cycle basis. And
Hmm.
obviously, when that happens, we step up to the plate. But our core expertise is in the area of leadership, acute care leadership, be it, you know, managers, directors, service line executives, the C-suite. That's really where we focus.
Gotcha. So let's talk a little bit about just the changes, right? Like we were just talking about COVID. It's I mean, between the three, with the exception of Jeremy, we've all been in the healthcare industry in some way or another for, 2+ decades. A lot has changed. Given your experience, and I would imagine from a recruitment and staffing, you have gained quite a unique perspective into the industry. What do you think has been some of the maybe the biggest changes or anything you can talk about that you've seen just kind of the evolution of the industry and how staffing kind of fits into that and people, right? Because when we say staffing, we're talking about the people who make, who run these organizations. So,
Completely. I'll
Dina,
say, yeah,
I'll let
I'll
you
say
lead on this one.
the healthcare industry is increasingly focused on patient-centric care. At the end of the day, there's a patient that we need to care for. And that's really transformed the way that we also approach recruitment because innovative solutions, remote therapy, telehealth, AI-powered tools, all of these, they've created a demand for professionals who are both tech savvy or tech adaptable and patient focused. So there's also been a shift towards creating healthcare experience where the patient genuinely feels love. So like at-home rehabilitation services, easy hospital processes, all of these are high touch. So as we go through the recruiting process for an institution, we really want to understand that the person that we're presenting has the same level of care for the patient because that both represents our attention to detail and also the attention by which this practitioner will give to the patient, who at the end of the day is the end customer, right? They're the one that we need to be being sure is served well. So this means for us, when we're recruiting for roles and we're doing executive searches, they have to go beyond just the clinical expertise. They have to, the people that we bring forth have to both understand the institution, the organization, and be able to give that high touch level of care for the patients.
David, did you want to add to that?
Dina's right on. I mean, I think
Yeah.
from my perspective, we have to be careful here because innovation is at the heart of everything we do. But really, I almost see our role, and Dina is always, she's that partner I was looking for back, 23 years ago 24 years ago that I spoke of, but she's challenging me in this organization to constantly innovate here. But I think that from my perspective, we have to remember that our role in this is ensuring that the human aspect remains front and center. And so one of the things that I say to our clients every day is because we're talking about digital transformation and we're talking about AI and we're talking about all of these, the technology and how they implement it and how they use it. But that doesn't change the fact that, right, at the end of the day, you've got a patient in the ICU or a baby in a NICU level 4 that can't communicate. And that at the heart of that is people. And so we have to ensure, I think the challenge for us is ensuring that, yes, we utilize innovation, but we do it in a way that ensures that bedside care and patient-centric care remains first and foremost. So when you ask what's the most significant change that we've seen, I would say it's a challenge. And it's a challenge that we want to innovate, but we need to do it in a way that we don't take away from what is the core of our business, which is really people loving people. I mean, that's really what we do. And I think that's why people go into healthcare. And ensuring that that doesn't get lost in all of this efficiency is a constant challenge.
Yeah, I imagine. And this actually brings me to a question I'm curious about, because we're talking about staffing, we're talking about people and getting them into the right roles. And certainly, innovation is a kind of a thread here, but are there particular roles, like positions, or even types of clients? Or when I say clients, I mean like an organization, a medical facility, like however you kind of delineate those. Is there Are there more difficult types of roles to fill and find the right people for, especially now, in kind of like the current kind of state of of things? Because it's an interesting job market right now too. So it's particularly in healthcare, and I know that, technology is really disrupting that. So would love to hear a little bit about that.
Well, I think there are roles that historically haven't been a part of our roster. And for example, I'll just give you one example, right? Healthcare for a long time has been able to get a pass on certain, and I might take some heat for this, but certain areas of corporate responsibility. Why? Because we're saving lives, right? We're treating a patient. So we don't have time to worry about this, or we can't worry about this because patient care is at the heart of what we do. And so now what innovation is doing is it's also challenging healthcare to say, hey, can you step it up in this area? So I'll give you an example. A chief green officer, right? A chief environmental officer, right? That is not a role that typically over the last 24 years we have seen a lot of. All of a sudden, in the last few years, hospitals, medical centers, acute care facilities are talking about it. What can we do to show more corporate responsibility, to care for the environment and that sort of thing? It's not been front and center of our discussions over the last 2 decades within the healthcare community. It is now. And so that's a perfect example of the type of role that has come into our vocabulary, that today we have to ensure that we are building an arsenal of people that can speak to caring for the environment and how a hospital or a medical center plays a role in that process.
Yeah, that just made me think of when this was when I was at Aetna, and I remember when they hired their first chief mindfulness officer.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, "What? Like, what even is that?" And then diversity, equity, inclusion, right? So like DEI leadership positions. I mean, that's been maybe one of the largest growing types of roles that I've seen anyway, from at least from my perspective, and particularly in healthcare. Is that something that you've seen as well? Is that another type of, yeah,
Yeah,
other change?
DEI is a discussion with probably, I'm going to say, 75-80% of our clients today. It is at the forefront, is ensuring that there is a level playing field for all candidates. And more importantly, is understanding that within the communities we serve, that not everyone is going to respond to our, let's call them solicitations in the same manner. If you think about it, if you have kids, right? I have a bunch of kids, and each of them communicates differently, right? Like I've got one that likes to communicate over the phone. I've got one that likes to talk in person. Dina will be thrilled to hear. I've got one that likes to communicate over Snapchat because she's got a personal connection to Snapchat. I've got one that likes to communicate over WhatsApp. Everybody likes to do their own thing, right? And so I think I think the lesson here is understanding that there are different ways in which people communicate, and ensuring that we're communicating in the manner that our clients want us to, not the way that we want to.
This just made me think too, as I mentioned, the chief mindfulness officer and kind of some of these roles, right, that you're seeing, like environmental, and to be completely in line with this podcast, like chief innovation officer, like that's kind of a new thing too, or even over AI. Are you seeing an increase in requests for that from clients? Yeah.
We are. We're seeing in innovation, as you said, in diversity, equity, inclusion, in the environment. These are all areas that we're seeing a huge uptick. The gentleman that runs, just to go back to your prior point, our DEI business, his name is Alfred Hankins. He is an individual that has been in the DEI world for decades and has been instrumental in ensuring that we are, again, communicating with people in the manner that's most effective for them so that they can find the right opportunities. And I think it's the same here with innovation. We are getting more and more requests from hospitals, from medical centers, from even, would you believe, multi-specialty practices. And you wouldn't think that a multi-specialty practice would be that concerned with innovation, or a sole practitioner. And even in a case like that, or a nursing home, we are getting requests from individuals that are saying, hey, I've got a neighborhood practice, this is what I'm doing, or I've got a small nursing home of 50 beds. I want to make sure that innovation is at the forefront of what I'm doing. How can you help me get there? So it's less about necessarily finding the right person and more about help us with that experience. What steps do we need to take before we attract that individual?
I'll just add that earlier this week I was at an ABA, Applied Behavioral Analysis conference. It was incredible because we now have a growing business of staffing and hiring in this space. And the amount of tech that I saw being shown at the conference was incredible. Well, what that also meant was how much more learnings have to happen for the practitioners. And this is a major opportunity because it's about how are you communicating with your patients and your clients using these new tech features. And I say this all because we have DEI, we have mindfulness, we have technology. There's a lot that the hospitals and the healthcare system need. And I'm really proud that Merraine, we actually are touching the whole system and allowing for individual growth as well for the people that we recruit for, and then also providing the institutions with the right talent. And then saying, hey, look, we know about some new innovation in the space that we can be able to help you with. And it's worth noting that when you think about America and our population and where we're growing, I wouldn't say we're growing, where we're headed, that the aging population in America, and the fact that 1 in 5 Americans are in the next 5 years are going to be at the retirement age. David talked about communication and all these different forms of communication. That means those loved ones need to be able to communicate with their family members in multiple different fashions, which means the practitioners also have to be comfortable dealing with the quote unquote aging population and also the millennials who might communicate quite differently. So they have a lot on their plate. and we have to be as supportive for them as possible to ensure good services.
I have a random question for you. So in this process, the staffing process, typically it's a company comes to you, says, we have this position that needs filled. Can you find someone to fill it for me, right? Do you guys ever like interact with a company and say, you know what you guys really need? You guys need an innovation officer, or you need a mindfulness officer, and like something they weren't even looking to fill. Do you guys ever like kind of create a position at one of your clients' companies that way?
I love this question. I'll say something, David, and then you definitely speak more to this. But with all our account executives and our team members, our family members, we talk a lot about listening to what people believe they need and then taking a consultative approach and saying, so everything you've told me that you said you need to hire for, it sounds actually like, no, you need someone who's in the mindful chair. Or no, what you're actually looking to hire for is much greater because you are going to have a larger demand. And that's something that we often coach our team to say, listen, and because of your expertise, because our team members have served so many different hospitals, right? Thousands of hospitals across the nation, we're able to essentially give one step forward of what's really much more of a predictive or a forecast of what there's going to be the need for, as opposed to reactionary. And that's something in the same way as the healthcare system, we want proactive people. We want to also be able to be proactive with what the needs of the institution are going to be. But David, you'll have a much more colorful story than I will. That's just,
No,
please.
not at all. I mean, it's all about being proactive, right? But yeah, we just had this happen last week. No, I'm sorry, 2 weeks ago. I was actually on site with one of our clients out in California right before Christmas, and this was the exact conversation we had. We sat down and they discussed. This is a community hospital out in Southern California, and they said, "Hey, these are the issues we're dealing with." I was meeting with the CEO and the CFO. We spent about 2.5 hours together, kind of troubleshooting a variety of things. They had different directors walking in and out, and at the end of the discussion, to your point, I said, "I have to tell you," I said, I I don't think, without going into their you know their core issue, I said, I don't think you've identified the problem. And that's always a bit of if you'll forgive the word, a crapshoot in our business, because sometimes a client can get angry and say, I'm not paying you to tell me what I need. I'm paying you to execute. But I think that most clients, not all, most clients will say, yeah, that's a good point. Tell me more. Tell me what you've seen. And the good thing about being in business as long as we have is we can draw upon prior experiences and say, this is what we did for this facility, similar size, similar community. They were dealing with a similar set of problems, and this is how we fixed it. And so I think that, as Dina said, being proactive rather than reactive in that regard is very, very is critical to being successful.
I feel like the saying, to see the or is it to see the
See the forest for the trees.
forest through the trees? That
Exactly.
keeps like rolling in my head as you were talking. So that seems to be a really in relevance to this. That's very
Yeah,
accurate.
and it was in my mind that you guys would have that unique kind of wide scope perspective because you do work with all these places across the industry and all these different locations that you have a perspective that individual companies aren't going to have. And so that's cool that you're as much consultants as you are just staffers. That's cool.
This has just led me to another question to pop up. You mentioned California. California, and again, I always go back to the, line of innovation because that's why we're here. But California, big tech hub, right? I think Denver, Nashville, right, for healthcare. Like Nashville is like, I don't know if you knew this, Jeremy. They probably do. Nashville is like this new like healthcare hub. It's kind of amazing. Do you see Do you like working geographically? And you even said in the beginning of the call, like you work with people all the way in Kuwait. A lot of technology, I can speak, is coming out of like India, for example, and countries like that too. Do you see from like a geographical perspective where there's a lot more like kind of progressive forward thinking like that that's happening with clients based on where they are? Yeah, he's nodding yes.
Dina's
It's a big
smiling, so I'm
question.
gonna.
Uh-huh.
I actually have a hard time answering that because there are hubs. There are definitely hubs. And in fact,
Mhm.
David and I a few weeks ago met with a very large VC fund here in New York that also has an office in Boston. Um, and they have funded, I think, 7 of their companies have gone public already, and they're doing incredible work in the medical and the science sector. Are there hubs? There's always, I'm an underdog. I like rooting for the smaller cities. Maybe it's because where I came from. So while there are definitely hubs of innovation, there's there are brilliant minds everywhere. And it's oftentimes those brilliant minds then actually need to relocate, right? To find other like-minded to help them grow. Or in the medical and the healthcare, sometimes they actually need to move in order to for facilities and things like that nature. But I can't answer specifically, oh, this is a region, you can look for a company there. It's all about, in my opinion, the founder, the grit of the founder, the team that they surround themselves. And it's always nice if there's a story, if there's a reason why the founder, he or she is building that company, because where there's heart, there's a lot to feel, and then there's a lot of commitment. And I do believe that when people are committed, they make things happen, hell or high water.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
I think you're right, Dina, that there are no, I was going to say there are uh, talented people everywhere, and that's one thing that we know probably better than most, right? Because organizations come to us after they have generally conducted an exhaustive search, right? They're not going to spend the money up front if they don't have to. They have not found what they're looking for, and so then they come to us. And so I think that's very common. That, but there are cities, and you mentioned 3, but I'll mention Boston, I'll mention
mhm,
Austin, Texas, and countries where I think innovation is at the heart of what they do. Israel is
mhm,
a dynamic leader in the world of healthcare tech. It, it's just unbelievable what's coming out of Israel. India, I think you mentioned India. India
uh-huh.
is a tremendous amount of talent coming out of there. And so there are certain pockets where it there seems to be a cultural phenomenon, if you will, around innovation and creativity, specifically within healthcare. Although, again, Dina's 100% right. You'll find it in the woods of Wyoming. But I absolutely believe that there are certain pockets and certain corners of the world that we can't ignore that are just innovating so quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, Israel. Yes, we have a client in Jerusalem. Is he in Jerusalem, I think?
Uh, I forget exactly where, but
But it is Israel. Yeah, that was
I don't think
definitely
we're
another
allowed to
one.
name drop that yet. So
No.
we are dipping our toe into that Israel healthcare innovation world
We
on
are.
a different project, though. Me and Heather, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I could say just briefly on that. Israel, I believe, has 30 or 30 plus publicly listed companies in the healthcare sector,
Oh,
um,
wow.
US. So it's outsized compared to population and whatnot.
Hmm. For
And as far as
sure.
Yeah, for such a small place, that's a lot.
it's a
it
lot.
is.
And people that build in the healthcare, countries that are involved in healthcare, we go back to this again and again. It's at the heart, it's society. It's helping one another. It's peace creating, it's loving. So Merraine, I just feel like we're so blessed and so lucky to be on both sides of this. We're involved on the tech because we're tech focused. We're creating jobs for people, and then we're helping the patients by bringing them care providers that love and care about them and the profession. And as you said from the very beginning, are very empathetic.
Mm-hmm. It's like the circle of life.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's
Yeah.
it's a tremendous gift to be able to love what you do, and I think I'm sure that comes across when Dina and I speak. That it's and I've we talked before about communication. And I tell my children all the time that's a gift, right? Most of us have to work, not all of us. Most of us have to work, but to be able to work in an area that you love, obviously you've got this podcast talking about innovation in healthcare. You're doing it because you love it. We come to work because we love it. I mean, not because, of course, we have to work, but this is, I mean, coming to work is a privilege at a company like this, where you get to see innovation and patient care come together every single day in a variety of ways, and being able to lead that charge is I think it's for me it's the privilege of my lifetime.
Yeah. About 20 years ago, I decided to stop having jobs and start having a lifestyle.
Yeah.
This is kind of how I haven't had a boss in a long time. Heather's the closest thing I have to a boss these days.
I'm not his boss.
Closest thing.
Closest. I'm nice though.
She tells me when I
Oh,
have to
that's
be here. She's the only one that actually keeps me on a schedule in any way.
This is true. Well, I love that. I love this conversation where we're at right now. One thing before we start to wrap things up, and I think this is a great thing to end on. Where do you think we have the most opportunity to evolve and progress forward in the industry, like in terms of the people, how it's run, how does recruitment play into that? Just, to keep moving forward. Like, what's next?
From my perspective, I think that behavioral health presents us with a significant number of opportunities that were not addressed. You talked about before corporate responsibility, but I think that for a long time, behavioral health has been an area that just is underserved. So we're talking about autism spectrum disorder, we're talking about intellectual and developmental disabilities, we're talking about substance abuse, we're talking about a variety of areas. And we've actually taken a lot of the lessons that we've learned to places like schools and summer camps and work, to work with youth and prepare them for some of these challenges. Because if the great example is you go into a supermarket and you've got a child in a wheelchair, everybody comes over and says, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Can I help you get that item?" But if you walk into a store and your child is making, let's just say, forgive the word, but odd movements or jumping up and down or acting rambunctious, everybody says, "Well, can't you control your child? What's wrong with you that you can't, what's wrong with that mother or that father?" I think that this right now, where innovation and healthcare come together, and the greatest opportunity to answer your question that we're going to see in the next generation, it's in behavioral health. That is where the need is. There are more and more cases every day. The autism rates are off the chart. And I think that this perhaps innovation will help us to finally understand these types of issues better, because it is truly an area that we're just scratching the surface.
Yep. I would definitely agree.
Yeah.
Spot on.
Yep. Dina, did you have anything else you wanted to
No,
add to that? He got it. As I'm listening to you, name off all of those things, behavioral, autism, substance abuse, all these things. I'm thinking, yeah, I have somebody in my life very close to me who is dealing with or suffering from one of those things. And I can guarantee you that any single person you walk up to on the street could probably say the same. And so it's everywhere. And if it's not yourself, right?
Right.
Or your own
Yeah.
kids.
We've been ignoring mental health in this country for a long time, and it's coming back to bite us now, I feel like.
Yeah.
Exactly.
from a tech perspective here, if you think about the last few years, the different types of apps that have come up, I'm going to be very simple here and just think about those that have come up to help people be mindful and to meditate, right? That's not even the tip of the iceberg, but that is at least bringing to the forefront society's need for acknowledging some self-care, and also that there are different ways of people communicating, of people working together, child of different learning styles. And the country, is mental health is definitely a major issue that we're dealing with. And technology has the ability to help, to be preventative, right? To have call lines, to have different apps that people can talk and communicate in the fashion that they're most comfortable with and express how they're feeling. That, God forbid, they don't do something that would be dangerous to themselves or to others. So, yeah.
I
Wow.
think what we could do, Dina, is we create a society that is more empathetic, and that helps patient care, and that helps us interact on a higher level and a holier level with one another to ensure that we are understanding behavioral health in the same manner that we understand physical health.
For
Yeah.
sure.
They go together, right?
Yeah.
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 Not
Well,
a, sorry.
So it all comes down to putting the right people in the right places, which is why
That's it.
Merraine Staffing is here, right?
yeah.
Which is
That's
why we're all
exactly
here
right.
today.
Uh-huh.
There you go.
I'll just say our team is growing. We are growing. We're actively growing. And we're looking for people to challenge us to help our team get better and get smarter so that we can continue to provide both hospitals, medical facilities, life sciences, pharma, all of these industries with the right talent. So a small plug for
Yeah.
those in the recruiting space and the account executive space.
Yeah.
Come work with David and we're pretty fun. We're pretty
I-
fun.
I spent an hour with you and I say you're pretty cool. So I did. Hey, David, I did send you, I
Yeah.
sent you a LinkedIn connect. So I hope you and I can be friends. Dina and I already covered that. So
Absolutely.
So-
I love it.
Absolutely.
So before we go, why don't you guys tell us how people can find you if they're looking for a job or looking to fill some positions?
Sure, absolutely. Well, easiest way is on the web, Merraine.com, which is Merraine at Merraine.com. 845-290-1900 is our main phone number. And I always listen. I think one of the things that distinguishes a family organization from a corporate, a large corporation, if you will, is I invite people to reach out to me personally as the president and founder of this company. My email is DG, stands for my initials, DG@Merraine.com, and I invite people to reach out to me directly. I respond to every email and every phone call I get personally, and it's very, very important to me. I take great pride in the fact that I have met over 65% of our customers. And you're talking about 1,600 customers. So over 65% of them personally. I take great pride in that. And that is something that we never want to change. So that's the best way to reach out to us. And we certainly appreciate this opportunity. It's great to be on your podcast. And you guys are rocking this thing.
Thanks. We love it.
We've been working on it for a year and a half, so
Yeah.
we were ready
It
when we
shows.
started. We were ready.
Yeah.
We put in our work.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, with that, we'll wrap up the show for today. This has been, I went into this not really sure how the conversation was going to go, and I got real excited about it when I started right before we started recording, and I got like way more out of this than I even had expected. So really appreciate the two of you coming on. This is such a great enhancement to what we're doing because it's like the non-obvious part of healthcare innovation is that we got to have the people. The people bring the innovation, and that's what you're doing. And so thank you. I work in this industry, so I depend on having, good, smart, brilliant, innovative, progressive thinking people to work alongside. So yeah.
We can't wait to watch and share this with everybody and see you guys continues to succeed because you're getting the word out there. Together,
Oh
we're
yeah,
gonna this
we
make this.
are.
We all got to find our part and do it, you know, try to
Yep.
make this world a little better while we're here.
Exactly.
Amen. Amen.
Right. That's right.
Awesome. All right.
The more minds and hearts we can attract to this, to the healthcare sector, the better off we all are. So thanks so much for having us
Exactly.
today.
And there you go. Quite the conversation with the team from the Merraine Group there. Before we get into our close official, I have to update myself a little bit. Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield. His name was Thornton Mellon. There's no affiliation with the school Carnegie Mellon in the movie Back to School.
Which makes a whole lot of sense given
I'm glad I corrected
movie.
that. I do not want to get sued. Rodney Dangerfield is still a genius, though.
That he is.
But back to the interview itself. I just want to say, Dave giving out his phone number and email, just like, call me. We'll talk.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool for the owner of like a large global kind of company like that. I mean, how often do you see him that interactive? And
Yeah.
I had something else. Oh yeah.
And he flies 250,000 miles a year. I mean, he's going to see clients like
That's crazy.
yeah.
That's crazy. I hope he uses his free tickets well.
I'm sure he does.
Those frequent flyer miles going to add up like crazy on that one.
Mm-hmm.
And I do also want to say I was not aware that Nashville was a healthcare hub. I've always thought of it as, the music city from back in the day. It's always just been music to me. But when I think about it, all those musicians from back in the day are all getting old and need some doctoring. So maybe that's why the healthcare had to move in, right?
I don't know. I would actually want to now look into it, why or like what made Nashville kind of start growing in the healthcare, like tech and innovation space. But I just know that it has been. Obviously, we talked about it during the interview, and there's other little hubs too. I think Austin was mentioned.
Yes, at Austin.
Yeah, a couple of other places
And
countries.
Boston came up a lot, but that's been
Boston.
like a hospital hub since forever, though.
Yeah, Boston, there's actually a lot of startups coming out of Boston in the healthcare space. And then Israel, which was mentioned. We've got some friends in Israel. So yeah, there's definitely some new places. It's not just happening in Silicon Valley.
Right.
So
Right. It's not just in the Bay, it's everywhere.
right.
Just
Yeah. So yeah,
it's
that was
even coming
interesting.
out of Flagstaff on our end.
Evidently.
Who
Yeah.
knew?
Who knew? Yeah, we're here. We're here in Flagstaff. So
Yeah.
if you didn't pick that one up yet. Um, but yeah, I think one of the main things is that when people think of healthcare innovation, and truthfully, I was guilty of this when I first spoke with Dina and we talked about her coming on the show. People don't think about people being innovation, right? In healthcare, or really any industry for that matter. But truly, the idea of people who fills the roles that lead and support the innovative programs, the products, all the things that actually come to life that then we all get to benefit from. If you don't if you don't have the right people in the right roles, then you can't really bring that innovation forward. So it kind of starts with the right people. So it's like this obvious thing, which has made, I think, this conversation all that more interesting because it's a bit of a surprise. Because the more we got into the conversation with them, um, it was almost like real-time realization of how truly important the people are to the innovation that we're talking about and we're trying to give a platform to on the show. So
Yeah. And the way they consult with their clients to help them figure out what kind of talent they need.
yes.
You know what I mean? Like actually helping them create and define the positions that they need to actually move themselves forward. It was, going into it, I was like, staffing, how is like, what are we going to do here? Like,
You
I,
and me
I
both.
didn't know what was going to happen, but,
Yeah.
yeah, like super interesting conversation.
Yeah.
And it really does raise that, it all starts with people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's including in all, especially almost innovation, because you got to have those unique thinkers, those free thinkers with the unique ideas and
Mm-hmm.
put them together with the people that can help them implement them in the proper way. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden you got massive change through the industry. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, the quote that really resonates with me is, seeing the forest through the trees. That's a big part of who they are from a a people perspective. Sometimes their clients think they need one thing when in fact they need something else or someone else. And that's in the role of innovation and in the role of many things, I think, within these companies and organizations. But for the purpose of this podcast, anyhow, um, that that concept and I think that approach is still accurate and relevant here. So, that's a gift, right? That's a real skill that Merraine Group can bring to their clients, and then in turn, the clients can bring to the people of the universe, that get to benefit from the products and the programs and the services and the widgets and all the things that are coming out of the healthcare innovation space. So it starts with people, and it starts with people and it ends with people.
Yeah. It's all
So
people.
yeah.
It's people all the way down.
Yep. So so
As it
there
were.
so that's it. That's my biggest, probably number one takeaway. So
Yeah.
the most surprising, interesting conversation that we've had yet.
Yeah, I think so too. Kind of sneaks up on you.
Hmm.
And wow, that's and like staffing. Oh yeah, that's really interesting.
Yep.
But yeah, great takeaways. Appreciate that. Thank you, Heather. If you guys enjoyed what you heard and or saw, depending on what platform you're on, please make sure to hit those likes and subscribes and shares. Do the auto downloads, ring the bells, things like that, so you never miss a beat with the Uprising here. We're on YouTube, easily searchable, Healthcare Uprising. We got a Patreon if you want to help monetarily support the Uprising. We have a bunch of different tiers that you can kind of get in on the funding of the podcast here if you so desire. That's at patreon.com/healthcare uprising. And where else are we, Heather?
You can find us online at healthcareuprising.com and also all the social media platforms like LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram. Yeah, I think that's all of them. And then, of course, if you are a business, a founder, anyone working in the healthcare innovation space and would be interested in coming on the show, or if you are a human, well, we're all humans, but if you have a human story, because ultimately healthcare is about people, definitely the theme in today's show.
There you go.
We'd love to talk to you too. Maybe you've got a story, good, bad, or otherwise. We'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email at healthcareuprising@gmail.com. And with that, I think we're done for the day.
Sounds like.
Yeah. So keep looking for the good in the world. It's sometimes where you least expect it.
This has been a Shut Up production.